I'm Amy DeVroon and welcome to Year of the Selfie podcast. 2020 has been a mad year thus far, a year where we've really had to take a look at ourselves. As a self-help nut, this hasn't been hugely out of the ordinary for me, but what has been so unusual is watching an entire creative industry grind to a halt in front of my very eyes. The link between creativity and mental health has always fascinated me, so I wanted to go deeper. In a world where we so often equate success with fame, it can be easy to forget the reason behind it all. Creativity. This unique, inexplicable gift. The thing we do where we lose all sense of time. The thing that lifts our hearts even in the darkest of moments. The thing that many of us feel we were put on this earth to do. So every week I'm going to talk to my guests about just that. Their creativity. Their highs and lows, and where they find their creativity when it feels like there's nowhere to put it. Today's guest on the podcast is none other than my husband, Seán Branigan, director, illustrator, storyboard artist, and father to our baby girl, Billy, who will hopefully stay asleep for the entirety of this interview. So hello, Seán Branigan. Welcome to Year of the Selfie podcast.
Hi.
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 Hi. Thanks for coming on and being my guinea pig, because it's not an easy job. And I suppose for those who don't know you, which might be no one, because it might just be our two moms listening. Kind of the reason I want to have you on is, what's interesting about Seán is you trained as a director, and then sort of in the last few years have kind of moved to storyboarding and illustrating, which is a very interesting kind of transition to make. Mm-hmm. You've been pretty open about kind of mental health struggles as well.
Yeah.
And you're someone who I find very inspiring because you're very creative naturally. And a lot of people just kind of seem to know you, and you seem to kind of have a creative air about you. People kind of seem to know who you are. Okay, I'll put it this way: if I'm working with someone sometimes, and then they're introduced to you, then they suddenly become like, oh, like Seán Branigan's friend, as opposed to like I'm the person actually who has been working.
I don't know if that's because I'm so charming. It's probably just,
and I'm so not.
Yeah, it's just more to do with you being so unlikable.
Exactly, and how socially awkward I am, which is so weird that I decided to do a podcast where I interview people, because I'm pretty shy normally.
Can I just, and we're not going to go back and forth here with the compliment tennis, but you are not socially awkward, and you're, if anything, it's very endearing.
Thanks, Seán. And that's why we're married. And that's the end of the podcast. Now, so just in keeping with that, I suppose, like, I would be interested to hear your earliest kind of memory of creativity, and did it mean anything to you, or was it just something that you got lost in? So, like, yeah, I'll let you.
Yeah, earliest memory, I don't know, but I definitely... I was an only child for 7 years, and my parents were very busy with work. They started a business in the recession in the 80s, and there was an element of, you know, there was times in a good way that I had to kind of entertain myself, and I'd be over in the office or whatever, and there'd be like a foolscap pad and some biros, and I would just be drawing. My earliest memory kind of is just drawing. All the time, drawing. Hours would pass, and the next thing Mom would say, come on, we have to go home now, and we're finished for the day. And I just remember being perfectly okay in my own company, doing that, exploring that. And, you know, I was probably just drawing like the turtles or something, you know, but I was kind of obsessively drawing them to not only just to make them better each time, to try and improve, but I just really enjoyed the process of there being nothing on the page, and then I do something, and then whether it's good or not, who cares, but there's now something on the page, just something that exists now that didn't exist a few minutes ago. And I think that's kind of intoxicating. To this day, that's intoxicating to me, the fact that there can be nothing and then somebody can make something from nothing, through thought and imagination and ideas and a kind of a development of that.
And would you still feel that kind of freedom with it, even though, say, for example, now you'd have clients, you'd have people on your back, you'd have deadlines? Like,
you're going
I'm going straight in.
It's straight in. Okay, straight in, no kissing. Can you just ask the question again? Because I just want to make sure I answer it properly.
Well, do you still feel that kind of sense of freedom and kind of playfulness with it now that you have
okay, so
deadlines, you've people on your back?
I didn't for a while. Now I've come around again, and I've learned to enjoy the process again, because I've started to try and carve out bits of time for myself to try and do the random stuff that doesn't immediately pay the bills. So that was a constant struggle for a long time for me, was the very kind of creative and emotional, heart-driven side, which would, say, let's do this, and let's, I have an idea, let's develop this or whatever. And then another more intellectual side that would just kind of find every single reason not to do it. And that would mostly come from a kind of a built-in voice that would go, well, how can you make money from that? Or you can do that, but no one might want to pay for it. Or would you want to do it if you can't get the right amount of money to do it properly in terms of a film or whatever? So what that was I think, and still is to an extent, a version of me that just, it's like a big muscly bully on the beach just kicking sand in my face, going, you're not going to be able to do that. And was there that voice is kind of constantly there, but I've found a way now to go, nah, fuck off, I might be able to do it, let's just see. So I think, yes, sorry.
And can you pinpoint, is there a point where you think that kind of big muscly fear guy, let's call him,
it's like a sexier, larger, more muscular me, like a Seán
2.0, as you like to say?
Yeah.
But is there a point where you think that happened? Like, would you have kind of, so for anyone who doesn't know, you would have studied in film, and I get the sense when we talk that you would be kind of you sounded a bit fearless in the early doors. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, and I think there was a good type of arrogance there, type of confidence that went, well, okay, so few people make it or are successful or able to make a living, but I'm not gonna let that be me, because I'm gonna work so hard, I'm gonna be so dedicated and so obsessive about it that it just can't not happen. And my attitude was that for my late teens and throughout my 20s. And reality kind of kicked in. I don't know if reality is the right word for it. It might be too kind a word for it. But basically something kind of kicked in, and I think I lost an awful lot of that confidence, and I started to become, a bit of a naysayer. So somebody who just more pessimistic. I think I developed a more pessimistic worldview, and I think I started to kind of bully myself. So I would stop myself from doing things, applying for things, writing scripts that I wanted to write, but not like I would about to open Final Draft and start typing and then go, no, Seán, don't do that. It's more a case of I'd start doing it, and then halfway in or less than halfway in, I'd be like, this is shit. Oh, the other voice would go, are you for real with this? Do you think this is going to be good? The most horrible kind of aggressive type of passive aggressive naysaying. that would go, who the fuck do you think you are? Like, seriously.
So is it almost like the idea would come? You'd be a bit of an ideas man. You'd have all the ideas, and then it would just be before you could even catch it and bring yourself to the page. It would be like the Sean 2.0 would just step in and be like, no, tear up like imaginary page that you have.
My lunch out of my hand.
Yeah.
No, it was just It was just I would have an idea, and I think that I would go to develop it, and I would feel good about it and feel excited about it, and then the other voice would just go, yeah, but like that might be a good idea, but like you can't execute that.
I think I don't know if you ever watched it, but there's that Elizabeth Gilbert talk on creativity where she talks about kind of catching the idea, that all these ideas are in the ether and you catch it. And
I did see that, and I've only seen that recently. So I wish I saw it a long time ago, but I would recommend anyone who might be interested to check that out. It's a TED talk, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's this idea that sort of like the people believed, you know, pre-Renaissance? People believed that the genius was something that lived in the walls, and that you sort of, as the artist, just sort of guided it through, and that was kind of the thing that you made. Whereas then in the Renaissance, it became very much about the artist. So the genius became the person, and that's why there was such huge mental illness and different things like that kind of came, because you can't handle that power. Like that power is kind of inexplicable, and
that's the thing. And I think that is, I mean, I don't say this easily. I take no joy in saying this, but like, there's definitely been times when I feel like that's been very damaging. It's not ever that I thought that I was a genius, but I thought that was something one could aspire to be. So I thought maybe, if you worked hard enough and you curated your own ideas and you got the right people around you, you could create things that were of genius. But even that word, like I fucking hate it so much. It's it's the ghost of Orson Welles that any filmmaker has, just sitting on their shoulder, kicking his legs, just.
And that's interesting, because just thinking about where you are saying you were as a child, which is like that you would draw a lot, you had a lot of free time to enjoy that kind of stuff. And then as you get older, I guess the ego kicks in. I don't know. I think it does for all of us, where you're like, I'm going to be the best. Could you ever marry those two, like those two personalities, as in like the free-flowing freedom of just making something with the kind of bravado and confidence of just going for it? Is there a point in your life where you ever felt like those two really just clicked into place, those two sides?
Just say that last bit again. Sorry.
Sorry. This is my very long-winded thought.
Doesn't know, we just spent the last 5 hours trying to get Willie asleep.
I know, trying to get our child to sleep, so it was a lot.
Just trying to be human again, sorry.
It's just the free-flowing kind of... Has there been a time in your life, do you think, where you were able to sort of marry those two things? The sort of childlike freedom of just making something and loving seeing the idea go from, your head onto the page, and this sort of bravado of like, I'm Seán Branigan, I get stuff done. Was there ever a time that you felt like those two really came together, or have they always been kind of a battle?
I think, and this is, it's kind of pathetic, but I suppose we're doing this. Like, I felt the last time I really remember feeling that, like, fuck yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I was right about this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And this is also very sad, maybe in a way, to hear. It was when I made my grad film from Dunleary, which was 2008. 2008, yeah.
So that was a film that did well, and sort of, not surprisingly did well, but I guess for a grad film, no one ever expects a grad film to sort of win a few things.
Some grad films do very well. It did well in the sense that it got me some meetings, and it got me kind of my name around there, and I got some good press. won the Galway Film Fleadh, and it got into played in festivals around the world. So that was great, and that was a great confidence booster and confirmation of, because I think it's important to say as well, like there was never anything else. I wasn't like, there was never a case that I'm like, I was kind of thinking, yeah, I'll give film a try. I think I walked out of Jurassic Park in 93, which, I mean, you're good at maths. What age would I have been?
You would have been, oh, you're younger than me. I would have been 9, so you would have been 7.
So I walked out of the Jurassic Park at age 7 in the square in Tala.
Yeah.
And I remember asking my parents, I was like, so it's someone's job to make that? Like it's someone's, who's Steven Spielberg? Who's that? I remember at that point then, I remember kind of going, okay, so that's kind of what I need to do, because it was another version of, I used to play a lot with toys, and it was another version of playing with bigger toys. And because when I was small, I remember I used to like have the figures on the figures down, and get down on the ground, and I'll like look at one eye and do like over the shoulders.
Is that before you knew what directing was?
Well, yeah, because I was probably just trying to do it like whatever I'd seen on TV. I was like trying to make the
kind of amazing
TV drama. Well, I don't know. Maybe a lot of kids do that. But all kids play, and it was just another version of that. And so when I realized that was a job and something you could aspire to and learn and train for, so from around that point, that's what I was going to do. Other things get in the way, rugby, girls, teenager things, but like I came back. And when I was going for college or whatever, that was like 100% what I was doing. There was no doubt about it. So,
and like,
but therein lies the problem. It was like the only. I'd convinced myself so much that was the thing. Like put it this, like I didn't even draw really. I only started drawing again a few years ago, and now I've improved that a huge amount because I've focused on it and concentrated on it, and I've explored another art medium. But I had totally neglected that. I'd kind of gone away from the tools up to just up here, because it was about, you know, who are the good producers, what's a budget, how do you schedule, do you do all this? And so it was all like thinking things. And then I feel like I moved away a little bit from the hard stuff, do you know?
And like we've spoken about this before. Well, I've spoken about like your identity being tied up in something. Oh, yeah. So for me, for a long time, and still to a degree, COVID-19 and all it's taking away is helping with this. But the sort of idea of like your identity being tied up in what you do, which is really tricky. So say how much of your identity, so you come out of a film when you're 7 and you're like, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. You're like, that's who I'm going to be.
Yeah. I did that with I used to play on my own, acting out scenes from Annie from the age of 3. There's pictures of me everywhere doing it. And then it was like, I'm an actress. That's what I do. And I'm going to be an actress, and that's what I do. And that's a really hard.
Yeah. You're right to mention that. That's a significant thing. Sorry, Buddy's looking at me here to be let out. And I just let him out a minute ago so that this wouldn't happen.
He just wants to be on screen. That's our dog, but
just come here and say hello. Jump up. Say hello. All the way.
Dog, but
hey, Buddy, say hello. A big hug. Oh, thanks. Okay, now go and wait over there for a minute. Okay. Be with you in a minute. Right. So that's a huge thing, the identity thing. So when as a kid or when you're young, those formative years, you go, I know what I'm doing. Because I remember being like coming up to the CAO forum with leaving certs and all that. And there's guys like, yeah, I'm not really sure like what I want to do. Like, I'm not like, I don't know, I'm not really sure. I'm like, I just couldn't comprehend that at 18 or at 17, that you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Like, but then, you know, obviously realized very quickly not everyone knows that straight away. Now I think they got to have a journey of exploration into finding themselves and finding their careers and finding out their strengths in a way that I never gave myself the opportunity to do. Are you hearing his
Yeah,
So,
I am. So you're going to have to take it.
I'll let him out and just take, excuse me, 1 minute.
So would you say that now doing your storyboarding, you have that opportunity to develop and like having built your storyboarding company? Like how 17-year-olds would kind of be able to kind of take all that time to explore and figure out what they wanted to do.
Yeah. So I suppose we skipped a bit there in that after college or whatever, I went on to do direct commercials, and that played its part. That played a role in, you know, discovering another side of the professional world of directing, and you're kind of servicing jobs and stuff like that. I didn't love it. Gonna be honest, I didn't feel like I could do an awful lot of directing. Other people in commercials might agree that you're very, very restricted, and you know that's understandable, and it is what it is. But
I guess with commercials, you're kind of bound to the client, which is the brand that they're representing, you know, and that's perfectly fine.
Not so much the problem, because I don't think I think anyone goes into directing commercials knowing what that is. I think what I didn't expect was how little, like how much you're actually just kind of going between rooms. Like you're talking to the actors, you're getting a scene, you're getting what you can get out of that, and then you kind of run back over to the monitors and you check if everyone's happy all the time. Mm-hmm. So you know, and there's always someone saying, "Can we try this?" You know, and then you find yourself pleasing, because you're never going to say no, so you have to go, yeah, let's try it, and then you find yourself just servicing other people's ideas and stuff like that. And it's a tricky one, because I feel like there's a lot of commercials that copywriters, you know, and art directors they come up with, and they start off really promising, and then they just go through the system where they just kind of get pared down. The actual spirit of them gets pared down and not sharpened, but just sometimes gets too much of a collaboration, too many chefs, like, and then met with something a little brown.
Well, I guess you're, you know, as a director, there's roles for a reason. So the reason the director there is usually to have the final say, but then that's not always the case when you're dealing with a very specific brand that has to be presented in a very specific way. And so, yeah, it can be kind of tricky.
Even in Hollywood, that's the same, you know, that's just part of life, and that's fine. But I could feel myself falling out of love with it, because I just didn't enjoy. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. So I just got to the point where I have to do something like Buddy. Sorry, Amy.
3.
So I found myself kind of falling out of love with directing, and that felt very uncomfortable. So that felt very scary, that this kind of one true love that I always had would become something that I really wasn't enjoying. So I guess we kind of parted ways. I went on a break with directing. So a conscious uncoupling for just a period of time. I decided then to try and put myself into something that had more of a schedule, somewhere where I could go every day, and somewhere, but I also wanted to use my drawing again. So I'd always done storyboards for other directors and people that I knew, and a lot of people came to me before and seemed to be pretty happy with what I did with the storyboards. So I thought maybe there's a gap in the market here for storyboards, in the sense that instead of going to a freelancer, people would go to a company that would have a certain standard that we would try and keep, and have it be kind of director-led. So a director-led storyboarding company where I would do storyboards, but there would be also other storyboard artists that kind of I would oversee and try and ensure that standard kind of was consistent throughout. So I started a storyboard workshop, and it's been really successful. It's been successful in that I got a load of brochures printed out, you know, a year or two ago, with kind of all examples of all our work and stuff. And I could never get a chance to go and deliver them to the clients, to the potential clients, the agencies and stuff, because one job would just come in after another, and word of mouth was spreading, and it was just a series of random jobs that were just coming in. So gotta keep taking the jobs when they come in, and yeah, so up until the world just ended a few months ago, it's been super consistent throughout. So I'm going from kind of strength to strength. So,
and say with one of the jobs that you did recently was kind of, you're going to be able to explain it better, but like a short for the next kind of Jurassic World.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that was bizarre. Talk about full circle.
Yeah.
In a weird way. So yeah, I had done a job with I have a very good friend, Gavin Kilduff, put me forward for a storyboarding job on the rhythm section, which was a film that was shooting in Dublin, directed by Reid Morano, and it was produced by the Broccolis and
Blake Lively was the lead in it.
Blake Lively.
Yeah.
So I went on that job and went to a recce and to Spain, and there was a big car chase sequence in that. So it was storyboarding that, and that led then to, I got on quite well with the art director, and I got a call to go out to Ardmore one day, where they wouldn't say what the project was, and they even at the gate, I just had to give my name. I still didn't know what it was until I got in there. When I got into the offices, I was in the art department, and I looked around on the walls, and there was all these pictures of dinosaurs and stuff like that. I'm like, nah, can't be, because even if they were shooting another Jurassic World, like, why would they be shooting it in Ardmore? Anyway, it turns out, so Colin Trevorrow was basically making this Jurassic World short, which I think intentionally was supposed to go out to kind of bridge the gap between Jurassic World 2 and whatever the third one was going to be, just to kind of keep people thinking about it. It was called Battle at Big Rock, I think. I've forgotten now, but
yeah, I think it is.
That was like a kind of a dream come true. I was just brought up to the upstairs to director, and they were like, "Do you know Colin?" And I'm like, "Yes," because one of our favorite films is Safety Not Guaranteed, and I was like, "This is great." So I just got to work, and we boarded out a sequence that needed to be kind of worked out, and then we had a set visit a few weeks later. It was a great experience.
And how did it feel? Like, was it strange to be like drawing on something that you had kind of encouraged you, the very thing, I guess, that had kind of inspired you to become a director, and now your life has changed and you're storyboarding it, so you're still working on the thing that inspired you, or what, you know, a version of the thing that inspired you so much, but it's in a different capacity. Is that kind of like, how does that feel? Like,
I don't think I really allowed myself to feel too much about it at the time. I was just kind of trying to focus on not messing it up. But afterwards, then I wasn't sure if I allowed myself to kind of have any joy in it after. It's weird. It's a weird thing. Like, I don't, like, there would have been a time maybe before where I'd be like, fuck, I'm working on the thing with this person and it's all happening. And now I'm really just more interested now in the process of doing it and finding kind of satisfaction in it, and doing a good job and doing it well. I don't really care who it's with or what it's for. So I don't know. I feel like sometimes being part of the film industry, like you can talk about that 7-year-old, you know, coming out of the square in Tala, versus now. I kind of feel like, you know, I was one of those kids at Disney who looked behind like one of the side gates and saw Mickey Mouse smoking a fag, like holding his head in his hands. You know, like, you don't want to see behind the curtain too much on the magic.
So you've seen the reality of what the whole business entails, and
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know if that's ruined it or anything, but it's definitely, it's different now.
Hmm.
Do you know? So, so yeah, I did really enjoy doing it. I'm going to think back fondly on it. But at the time, I was just shitting myself, just making sure, like, oh, I really don't want to mess this one up. So I
Yeah,
don't think I gave myself the time to really
to
enjoy it.
enjoy it.
I'd
Yeah.
also just quit smoking like 2 days before, so I was a bit out of sorts.
Yeah.
But I definitely feel very proud about it.
And to see your name in that font is kind of,
Yeah, that was the
that's an
thing.
iconic
Yeah,
font. That's a good
and the
moment.
credits at the end, and there's that typeface that saw my name. That was, and it was spelled right as well, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So no, that was really good. But there's still always a bit of me who that needs to be the captain of the ship. Okay,
Yeah.
so I don't know what that is, and that's probably a fault in me. But I am not happy doing the storyboards for Jurassic World short. In a way, I'll only be happy when I'm doing Colin's job.
Yeah. Sure. Which is
And that's not a
understandable.
power thing. It's just more of a, like, yeah, I enjoy being part of the process, but it's almost like um, I need the stakes to be higher or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I get that. When you do not double job, but when you've a couple of strings to your bow, you know, the thing that's still like, I enjoy writing things and all of those. I enjoy doing voice stuff, but I think acting has always been,
Mm.
that's the real icing on the cake, or that's the bit, that's the stuff that really gets you going.
Yeah, like, to be fair to you, if you don't mind me saying, like, one thing I find very inspiring with you is how you deal with rejection. You just kind of brush it off. Like, I don't deal. I haven't now. I would be better. I haven't dealt with rejection very well, and it really cuts. Like, and part of me goes, I don't care what they say, and then another part of me goes, yeah, no, I'm terrible. I should just stop now. This is the
So
way.
would that be if you pitched on a job, or if you got rejected for funding or something, say for
Yeah,
example in
like,
film and stuff?
I've often not applied for funding because the I don't know, like, which I'm going to change, obviously, because me and directing are getting back together. I think we're going to give it
What's her
another go.
name?
Yeah, I think we're going to give it another go. Um, so like, there would be times where I've applied for funding and gotten a few rejections, and I'm really disappointed to say this about myself, but it's like it somehow, like, cuts so deep, which is
Mm.
pathetic, that it became easier just not to apply anymore.
And can I ask you something about funding? Because would you find it difficult to have this really creative idea and then put it into this very sort of almost academic form, describe it in this way, and it's very kind of formulaic,
Mm.
and I don't think creativity or the thing that you're making sometimes can be described in a way that people are going to get. There's a
Yeah,
salesmanship to it, to kind of sell, to getting the funding, and there's a,
that's
and
true. But that's
and that can be.
that's true. But that's the same. That's the same in Hollywood, or
Mhm.
if you're raising money for independent cinema or European cinema, or you got to be able to package up what you're doing. No one's
Yeah.
going to be like, "You look like a creative guy. I'm sure this will be good. Take my money."
I'll
Like,
trust you.
yeah, that's so you got to do that, and that's fine. It's just a growing up thing on my part.
Yeah.
It
So you
becomes
feel that would
hard.
have chipped away at your confidence, any rejections
Yeah,
over the years?
yeah, but I'll tell you why. It's not me just being, well, it is me just being a little bitch. But the thing is, and it goes back to what we touched on earlier in terms of identity. When, in this case, being film director
Yeah.
is your identity, it's as much a part of your identity as how your voice sounds, your accent, or how you look, or what clothes you wear, or anything like that. And you tie that into who you are, then when you get a rejection letter from whatever the funding body is.
Mm-hmm.
They're not rejecting your idea. They're rejecting you as a person.
Yeah, it's like a personal
Which
attack.
sounds really obvious, and maybe most people are too clever to go that route that I did. But I definitely tied up my work, my job, my career, my aspirations with my identity to the point where when that wasn't going well, or say, for example, I did other shorts that didn't even get into festivals after winning a number of other festivals previously. Then you go, oh yeah, no, that was a fluke. Fuck, that was a fluke. Okay. Yeah, no shit. Okay, they're on to me now. It's imposter syndrome. And you go, oh yeah, no, I'm a fraud. And then that just kind of festers, and you find yourself, well, I found myself kind of going into myself a little bit more, being a lot more afraid to put myself out there. And the only way you get anywhere is by risking things and putting yourself out there.
So do you think that kind of early success, because that was very early success, really, by anyone's standards?
It wasn't really success.
Well, in terms of film school success, it's, you know, like, yeah, it's probably...
I got a nod, like. I got a nod. Kind of like, yeah, well done, kid, that was good.
Do you think that's
great at the time? But
yeah, and do you think that's the thing that then set this sort of weird... Do you think that is that something that maybe shifted in your head? Was that a point where you were like, but looking back on it, oh shit, yeah, that, you know, if you're saying that it was so free flowing, making that film, everything seemed to, both sides of yourself came into play, the free flowing kind of creative bit and the go-getter side, and then the success happens, which happens kind of all of us. It's like you do the job and you're so delighted doing the job and you're just in it and it feels amazing.
Yeah.
And then you might get a bit of press for it, you might get a good review, and then suddenly like your ego side takes over, obviously.
You get validation.
Yeah.
And if that's part of your identity, you're being validated as a person.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're not getting validation, your sense of worth just diminishes.
So
that's not right.
No.
But that's what happens if you haven't developed enough as a person, as I hadn't, and other people maybe haven't as well. So that's why we're talking. It's not, I don't like talking about this. I think you know that. So I suppose the intention of this is not for me to kind of indulge in that or those woes. But just
I think it's a common problem though, and I think that people will appreciate people talking about it and people that they know and respect and like talking about it, because, you know, you can look at somebody and just go, and I've had that at certain times in my life where they go like, you're flying it, you're doing really well, oh look at you, you're flying it, and they don't see all the little cogs turning and all the bits going between.
Yeah.
So I would like to talk to you, if you don't mind, about one more thing, and it is to do with mental health and it is to do with filmmaking, because there was a point, and if it's too far, you can just say, there was a point when we collaborated on, I wrote a short film and myself and Paul Reed were in it and you directed it. And shortly after that, I think you had been diagnosed with depression.
Yeah, well, I went to see the doctor and we talked about it, and it worked out that actually I'd kind of been not in a great spot for like 7 years. I thought I was just a cranky person.
Which is, a common complaint.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I thought I was just like a bit of a bastard, but actually I was just really miserable in myself for a very long time.
And oh, sorry, go on.
No, and then channeling all of that energy into work, because like you go, so I'm struggling as a person, or I'm not showing up as the person shown, but I can show up as Sean, the director. I can go to the film festivals and I can bang away at this script and I can, workshop with these actors or whatever.
And so if the two things are in those, if your personality and if your identity is tied into your job and you're feeling crap, it can so often be like, I'll just achieve more. I'll just try and do better in my job. And you forget.
You're just being a busy idiot. You're not really doing one thing right.
Yeah.
We're going to do,
Sure.
I'm pitching on a music video here. Oh, we're going to do the short here. We're going to like, yeah, oh yeah, pitching on a commercial next week. Like doing a treatment, busy doing that, doing storyboards with somebody else. Like so you're just out the door the whole time. Because the minute you stop, you're going to be like, what am I doing?
And can you talk about that kind of period when you were directing? And I suppose probably in a personal sense, you possibly were maybe at your lowest, because I know that you spoke to myself and the producer, and I think you might have said it to Paul as well. And after the fact, no one had even noticed. That's the funniest thing, which is always the way. Nobody had noticed, but you wanted to kind of say to a couple of people who had worked on it afterwards, look, I was not in a good place, just so you know, or whatever. Can you kind of talk about that? Because I think a lot of people kind of will have had those experiences where you're kind of personally at your lowest point and you're doing this job that's your job, you know, that's you're passionate about or whatever. And how did that feel? How did that affect you? Like, you know.
It's weird because I almost don't even remember it.
Yeah.
Doing it. Well, I do remember an awful lot of anxiety around it because the other films I'd made leading up to that, the last few films I don't think had been great really. And because I wasn't in a great place, I'm just thinking, well, this isn't going to be great either. But fuck, we got funding, so let's do it and let's try and make it good. But it was just kind of self-doubt and fear. And you know, the film's fine, it's good. A lot of people like it, but I look at it now and I just kind of go, I totally phoned that in.
You feel like now being in a better space, you would have made different choices, or as like different directorial choices, or
yeah, big time. And the worst thing about it is not that, oh, I made a bad film. Like I can deal with that, especially now. It's just
I'm just going to point out it's not a bad film. Just I think you're being hard on yourself.
Film. It's not a bad film. I'm just talking about how I might make it as negative as possible in my head.
Gotcha.
What the worst feeling about it was just that I felt like I would have been letting you down or letting the actors down or all those other people who came, even the AD and everyone else who showed up, the DOP, like everyone who showed up to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then I did that, you know, that I would be conscious that those people who I worked with would think, yeah, I worked with Seán. He was like, grand. Yeah, but it's not an ego thing. It's more a case like I have a really, I have this thing where I really want everyone on set to really enjoy, because a lot of people in the film business do it because they love it and they're passionate about it, because it's not the easiest job in the world. The hours are all over the place. People's relationships suffer. The money isn't always great, and it's a tough road. So I always think I always think like if you're gonna be working with people, long hours, awkward times, shitty conditions like cold, rain, whatever, you're like, make the film like as good as you can, so that at least they can come off it and not just see it as another job, but be proud to have been involved in it, but also to just to make the on-set experience, the day at work, as enjoyable as possible.
And do you now sort of feel any fire or even just like a little ember of excitement or hope to go back to directing? And, you know, do you think there's something there?
There is. There's a coal that's still hot. The thing is, before I would have had a lot of pressure from myself, because it was my job and therefore my income, to always be like, you got to be always working on something. You always got to be, you know, and you would have a number of things in your portfolio that you were trying to get going. but you can't love all those children equally. Like something's like always somebody goes, oh, if you have to pick one, you'll end up easily being able to pick the one. Like, oh, if I can write you a check tomorrow, you can make this. You're going to have your number one thing that you want to make, but you have to have so many things on the boil.
And often somebody's first project ends up being the third one that's been made. You know? Yeah.
Well, now I feel a sense of freedom in that, because I don't have to, well, who knows now with COVID-19, but because I don't have to constantly be stressing about directing a film in order to pay our bills or whatever each month. I feel like slightly freer in order to be able to really focus on the things, the ideas that I do want to pursue in my own time and properly. And that might not happen for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like to think that if I'm going to put like 3 or 4 years or a big uphill struggle and a lot of headaches into trying to get a film made, or might be TV now because I don't know what's happening in film, some content made, I'm going to make sure it's something I'm really passionate about. I'm not just doing because I'm a director, this is my job, I should do this. Because, I don't know, I could have, after finishing college in London, there was some interest for my other grad film, and I could have signed up with a few agents, and maybe I should have, and directed some TV or some soaps, some Hollyoaks, stuff like that. And I didn't turn my nose up at it. I just didn't think I knew how to do that. It was just felt like it was so far away from what I could do well. I was like,
but that's interesting, because a lot of people don't approach things, like that. A lot of people will just be like, hey, I'll do it. I'll do anything, And I remember at drama school, there was a tutor who was like, there's two different like approaches. There's like a very linear, like you'll be in the orchard and there'll be an apple there and you'll go for that very specific apple that you want to take. Or the other approach is just like bang the tree a few times and see what falls. And I don't think one is right or wrong.
No, that's a good one. Yeah. Never thought of it that way. That's a good one. Like, yeah. I mean, I often think sometimes if I had gone the casualty, or if I would have been so lucky to have directed some episodes of Casualty or the Hollyoaks or these kind of things, obviously my career would have taken a different path. But to what avail? Like, so that I can do a Hollywood movie. Like, I don't know if I want to do a Hollywood movie, because I don't see it as a Hollywood movie. I only want to do something that I'm interested in story-wise, and script-wise. So if that's, a no budget film that nobody ever sees, fine. But I'd rather that than a massive headache dealing with a load of studio heads or the big machine that is the Hollywood thing, just so I can say I'm a director and have one of those megaphone things. Not interesting.
Do they have those megaphone things still?
I don't know.
They should.
I've been out of the game for a while. I don't know.
Yeah, since 1950.
Yeah.
But do you think that's something that's?
No,
sorry, I was just going to say.
I'm just saying I'm not interested in the idea of being a director in maybe the way I thought I was before.
Yeah.
When I was younger, and what's the word?
Naive. Yeah.
But there's also like
innocent. A nice. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I was actually going to ask you is that something, do you think that's come with age? And I think I'd love to hear about other people, because I think that's something for me definitely that's come with age, through various knockbacks, various times when I've created my own work. And then getting big jobs that I was really delighted to get, you kind of start to realize, what the important things are, and that the important thing is the work and the creativity behind it, and the meaning behind it. And sometimes what you think, or what kind of, I don't want to say society, but what society thinks is the big kind of flashing lights and everything, isn't actually the things that you'll remember. So in keeping with that, actually, what is the job or the thing that you've made or any of that kind of thing that you're most proud of? It doesn't have to have been successful or anything, but that you actually gives you a little kind of like, that was good. And I know it's hard. I know you're very modest, but is
No,
there
it's not
anything that, like,
modesty,
just
Amy.
internally?
No, it's not modesty. I don't know if I have one. Is that too radical? I don't like, but I see that
It
as
can be as
positive.
simple. I was just going to say it could be as simple as something that you just made for fun. It doesn't have to be. It could be something that you made when you were 7 for fun, or is there anything that you've made that you're just like delighted with myself now? God, I didn't think I'd be able to do that, and now I have.
I honestly don't. No, but I can't even think of anything.
Too modest.
No, it's not modesty. I don't know if it's because I'm tired.
Yeah.
I think it's more to do with the fact that, like, no, I don't really revel in anything, and I know we're slightly different in that. Like,
Yeah.
You're happy to celebrate the good things, and I'm always like erring on the side of caution. Like, oh no, hang on now. This
I
is this.
literally celebrate anything. I'll celebrate
Yeah,
Tuesday if given the opportunity.
yeah. Well, what day is it today?
That's Wednesday now. But
Happy Wednesday, Amy.
thank you so much. Happy Wednesday
Uh,
to you too,
I
Seán.
know you love a Wednesday.
I do.
So yeah, no, I don't think there is anything. And however, that sounds grim, but that's not how I mean it. That helps me to pursue that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really delighted with myself about anything that I've done. So I'll get busy trying to do something that I'm delighted with. And that might never happen, but the pursuit of it, I'll enjoy.
And I guess just to wrap it up, kind of what does creativity mean to you? Whether it's like, how do you define it, or how does it make you feel? Like, what does it mean to you? How could you explain it?
That's a good one. It's a hard one. I think it's, I'm trying to avoid being cheesy, but it means freedom to me. So it's the freedom to fuck it up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel like, if you're in a position where, like, you talk about Elizabeth Gilbert, she's talking that TED talk that everyone should go and watch. If she's talking about, she wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and was that like one of her first or something?
No, she'd had loads of rejections, but so she'd had loads of rejections. I don't think she expected it to do as well as it did. So then obviously everything after that is going to be second place, which then I guess I'm sure she always did look at the creativity, but I think that then made her kind of really, really look at it.
It's the second album thing, isn't it? Anxiety of that. I mean, it's a skill. It's personal development in trying to not have that second album worry. But
so it's freedom to fuck it up.
Well, that's it really. Because when I was doing my grad film in college, there was no, like, the stakes were incredibly low.
Yeah.
And in fact, most people are expecting your thing to be shite. So their expectations are low. You come in with something half decent, and everyone goes, whoopee, like. And that's what separates the boys from the men in the real world of these artists, are the people that consistently come out with good quality stuff. It can be different all the time, even in terms of musicians or whatever. Like Sufjan Stevens, for example, does a vast variety of stuff. It's not all the same. It's not all to everyone's taste, but you can be sure he's not going to do the same thing twice. And I think that's a really interesting. So you can hate it. You can hate some of his albums, but like, hang on, this is of a certain quality. Compositions here and the instrumentation, they're of a certain quality. That would be the aim, I think. And in order to have that freedom, / creativity, you need to really not be trying to deliver a product for a market.
Mm-hmm.
For an audience, yeah.
Interesting. For an audience, but not for a market. Yeah.
Yeah, because you get that. Like, I respect the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's nothing worse than a navel-gazy, self-indulgent, you know, film or piece of art that almost alienates the audience.
Mm-hmm.
I respect the audience. The audience should have a good time. People work hard. They earn their money. They get babysitters. They want to go to a film or a show or whatever it is that's worth their while, or that at least they're respected in the auditorium, wherever it might be. And I just think that's really important. The audience is really important. The problem is when people go, teen horror is so hot right now, mm-hmm. or whatever. That's very
well. It's probably a bit soulless, and the whole like
like that's the thing. You can't, and I think that's what I think original things and interesting things find their audience, especially now. I think when films ironically have, or that's not the right use of ironic, but films weirdly have a much better opportunity now to find an audience in how we watch films now, that we've all thrown our DVDs out, and word of mouth, the internet and streaming services will be able to get you things you never maybe would have come across before. That's an interesting time to be alive.
It is an interesting time to be alive.
Yeah, so there, I'm not all doom and gloom. That's real positive there to end on.
A real positive note to end on there, Seán.
Yeah, there's your
no, but seriously, I do hope that you continue to look for and hopefully find, if you have not already, the freedom in yourself to fuck it up.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mom, for the F word.
But then I need to make a massive apology to my mother-in-law if that's what we're doing.
No, I'm joking. But I also just want to thank you as well, Seán, because I think it's not easy. Well, it's not easy to be the first guest. It's not easy to be the first guest. She's also my husband. And you are a bit of a guinea pig. But I do appreciate that you've sort of spoken quite openly about, I guess, you know, the change in your career and issues with mental health and stuff, because I don't think people talk about it enough, and I don't think they talk about it enough in our industry. And, you know, and I think it's really, I think people just feel better. I know I do when I'm listening to podcasts and just hear people's actual real story. It makes us all feel, I think, a little bit less alone in these crazy COVID times. So
the way I see it is, if maybe I had been able to come across the notions that have been discussed here, I might have been able to catch myself in certain areas before it was kind of too late. I don't know.
Yeah.
But can I just say, again, being a little positive, Charlie over here, can I just say...
You're helping me really well wrap this up here. Go for it.
Well, can I just say the best, just to wish you the best of luck with this.
Thanks.
If this gets uploaded...
Sure, if this gets uploaded, we're halfway there. Do you know what I mean?
My career is over anyway, so that's
I think both of our careers are over. Don't worry about it.
What I wanted to do is just wish you the best with it. I think it's a lovely idea, and I think it's something that I really look forward to listening to while I'm working, and I hope other people enjoy it as well.
Yeah, so do I.
I think you're going to be great at it, and I wish you the best.
Thanks very much, Seán, and thanks for being my first guest. And that's that. Year of the Selfie podcast, number 1, done. So there you have it, Seán Branigan. I really want to take just a second to thank him, because it wasn't easy. In fact, we did actually start recording the podcast at first, and he is happy for me to tell you that he had a mini meltdown and felt very exposed. And then, you know, we decided to press record again and keep going. And I think what's great about Seán is that he is very open about his journey. And it's kind of inspiring in a way to see someone who is so talented and is so creative, but has that inner demon that just, you know, won't let them move forward sometimes. So thank you, Seán. I know we were both very nervous, so it just feels great to have it done. And I really hope that you guys enjoyed the episode and got something from it. That's kind of my only wish with this. So if you did get something from it, if you felt better from listening to it, or just think you might know someone who just might get something from it, just share away. You can like and subscribe on YouTube. We're at Year of the Selfie podcast. You can find me pretty much anywhere on the social medias under @AmyDevroon. You can follow my website, www.amydevroon.net. So like, share, tell people about it if it spoke to you, and hopefully let's just all feel a little bit better. Have a great day, guys.